Hi everyone, I'd like to do a shout out to our sponsor, Bako Diagnostics. Early detection is the single most important factor in improving patient outcomes. The Bako Diagnostics team recognizes how impactful a podiatric physician can be and remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing conditions of the lower extremity. Thanks to the unwavering support of their clients, Bako Diagnostics has been able to give back to the podiatric community for 16 years by providing podiatric educational resources and advocating for the position. Bako Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. If you have not yet had the opportunity to utilize Bako Diagnostics services, get started today by sending an email to corporaterelations@bakoddiagnostics.com. The first 50 podiatry offices who request a starter kit will receive a Dean's Chat mug. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. Today, my typical co-host, Dr. Joanna Richey, she's off at a meeting, so it's going to be me and our guests. I'd like to introduce our guests for tonight, Dr. Walter Strash and his daughter, Dr. Bella Strash. Welcome to Dean's Chat.
We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, I'm super happy to have you here. We were talking earlier, Walter. I feel like I know you from LinkedIn. You know, we go back and forth, and so it's wonderful to meet you in person. And Bella, same. I see all the pictures and on social media, and I'm sure your father's ultra proud of you. Let me give you a little more formal introduction. Walter, I'll start with you. You practice in San Antonio. You went to the Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine. You did your residency at Metropolitan Hospital in Springfield, Pennsylvania. You are board certified by the American Board of Foot and Ankle Surgery in both foot surgery and reconstructive rear foot and ankle surgery. You are extremely well published. You're innovative. You got a couple patents. You're also an associate professor in the Department of Orthopedic Surgery at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. I will note that you had your private practice, and then you are now affiliated with U.S. Foot and Ankle Specialists. Walter, I look forward to talking to you about that a little more too. And then let me shift gears. Let's move over to Bella. Bella is a student, fourth-year student at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. You're currently doing clerkships, and you did your undergraduate at the University of Texas, A&M. And we had a little bantering back and forth. You're a big-time runner. You've won a couple half marathons, in an hour and 25 minutes. That's pretty fast.
Thank you.
So I'm super excited to have you both on the program. And if it's okay with you, let's go first names. Let's keep it informal. Wally, Bella, and Jeff.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, let me kick it off here, Bella. We're, we got beauty in the beasts here. What can you say, Wally? So Bella, you're a fourth-year student at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Yes.
You grew up podiatry. You know, you're not far from your home.
Yes.
What was it like growing up in podiatry and kind of transition into when you decided perhaps you would become a podiatrist?
Yeah. I think ever since I was like 4 years old, I always was inspired by my dad. And I don't know if most kids know what their parents do at 4 years old, but I remember like we would have these like descriptions or like draw a portrait of your like dad or your parent, and it'd be like, oh, my dad fixes feet. And then just like growing up with my dad being the neighborhood podiatrist, always my teachers and like my friends and their parents were like, oh, are you Dr. Strash's daughter? Like, he's my podiatrist, and like he fixed my bunions, and like now I can walk again and wear the shoes that I want to wear. So it was always so great to see like his influence in the community. But it probably wasn't until probably middle school where I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and then high school and then undergrad, I knew for sure it was going to be podiatry for me.
That's interesting. So Wally, were you surprised when Bella said, I'm applying to podiatry school, or when she got on that track?
No, I wasn't surprised, and it seemed like a really natural, kind of progression. In middle school, she would come over to the hospital with me and observe cases, and just having bringing this up, I've got a wonderful picture in my mind of her in a pink lead apron. And that was kind of a neat time. But yeah, middle school, she was there. And then, high school, she would come to a few more cases. And she also worked at my office as well. And, she could maybe tell us a little bit about working at the office.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that kind of reinforced your
Right.
decision, of course. Go ahead, Bella.
Yeah, I think I started working in my dad's office when I was like 16. And I actually started just working at the front desk, interacting with the patients and checking them in for their appointments and calling patients to confirm their appointments. So I was very much in the mix, more in the social aspect of working in a community doctor's office. And I just fell in love with the the community and the personal touch that a doctor could have with his community. So that was probably summers like ages 16, 17, 18. And I dabbled around. I helped with billing, helped with like insurance stuff. And then of course whenever the MA wasn't able to come, I was the MA and would help reset the rooms and draw the injections and make sure the instruments were ready to go. So kind of got a little taste of everything that goes on in a private practice.
That's fabulous. I can only imagine you're in interviews, you're looking to go to podiatry school, and your interviewers start asking you questions about the different aspects. You saw it from the front office to the back office, and you lived it all along. So that's
I got a
fabulous.
front row seat. Yes.
So Wally, before I get to you, I had one more question for Bella. So Bella, what was it like applying? Because you're in the first class at UT-RGV, right? What was that like? Was there any apprehension? Were you unsure? Obviously, it's worked out wonderfully for you, but what was that like? Because it's a leap of faith, right? When you have a new school, nobody's ever gone there before.
So my route to podiatry school is a little bit unique in the fact that I actually only did 3 years of undergrad and jumped right into podiatry school after that. So I did my freshman year at Texas Christian University. Loved my time there, but wanted to branch out and do something a little bit different. So I did sophomore and junior year at Texas A&M College Station. And it was probably the spring, like a little before the spring of my junior year, where, you're gearing up to take the MCAT. And there was all this chatter about like, this school coming out. And I know Dr. Harkless had been working on this school for 30 plus years. Dr. Harkless is a close family friend of ours. And, with my dad, just like being involved in UT San Antonio, we always knew that there was talks of a school. So I actually, lucky enough, got to go and visit the school in early April before everything was even signed and delivered and like official. I remember I met Dr. LaFontaine on the campus, the supposed to be campus. It wasn't
The big
nothing.
campus.
Yes, nothing was said and done yet. I think they still had some like legal work to go through. He gave me a tour, and at that point, I was like, I'm going for it. Taking my MCAT next week, and fingers crossed, my like studying and everything falls into place. And luckily, it did. And applied and did my interviews and ended up there. I don't know what it was, like last week of July. It was just such a turn of events that happened to be like the most wonderful. So that was my point A to point B as far as being an undergrad and then getting to my first day of podiatry school.
Time flies, right? I mean, it seems like yesterday the school opened. Now you're a fourth year and you're going to graduate. So we'll come back to that in a little bit. Let's shift gears back to you, Walter.
Yeah.
How about yourself? How did you find out about podiatry and how did you end up at Temple? Or what was Pennsylvania at the time?
Right. And so my father actually encouraged me. He wasn't a podiatrist. He was a businessman, and he knew a podiatrist when he was, growing up in Toronto. I'm from Canada originally. And this podiatrist, actually, he had three older sisters, and this podiatrist dated one of his sisters. And so he, knew about the profession that way. And so he said, this is something worth considering. And then as I went through school, I believe it was my first year of college, I had a foot issue, and I went to a podiatrist in Ottawa, where I was living at the time with my parents. And he treated me very well, and he was a wonderful man. And then I expressed an interest, and he said, look, this summer, why don't you, when you got the summer off, come and spend 1 or 2 weeks with me in the office. And I followed him around for a 2 week period, and I thought this is a wonderful profession. And so he was my introduction to it. And then oddly enough, it was Dr. Wilfred Lane who was my he was the gentleman who was dating one of my father's sisters, and he was in charge of the VA in Palo Alto. And
Yes,
so,
I knew that name. Yeah.
yeah, so I ended up writing him a letter, and at the time when we were writing letters and not emailing, and he said, sure, come on out. And I ended up spending a month in Palo Alto and fell in love with that program, and the surroundings in Palo Alto is just beautiful. And so that was my introduction to it.
So I had the same issue. I was debating, whether I should go to Pennsylvania or California, because you graduated just a couple years before I did. Did you
Yeah.
have the same dilemma?
Well, I did. I mean, because it's in residency. One of my mentors in residency offered me a position, and then I had done a rotation at the UT program, and the story goes, I'd met a woman there, and so after residency, I went to go and be with her, and unfortunately, it didn't really work out. Like, long distance was fine, but on the one-on-one didn't work out. And I thought I would go back to Pennsylvania to practice with Vince Mandrakia. And so, we were talking, and he said, look, you have an offer on the table, you can come on back. We need to talk some more. I'd like you to come up. And then I happened to meet my wife. And, we ended up meeting, getting engaged 6 months after that, and, filled him in on the story and said, look, I'm staying here for another year with this practice, and I really care for this woman. I think we're going to get married. And he was saying, look, I got a great job for you, and you knucklehead, you went there for a woman. Why are you staying? So that's kind of how it was. And then we're married now, going on 35 years with 4 children. So it was the right choice.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
One quick question. When did you decide to make the move from private practice to U.S. foot and ankle specialist?
Well, I had grown my practice at one point, there were 5 of us with 4 locations. And then in 2018, my 2 partners, they really wanted to do private equity. And at 2018, I wasn't ready. So they ended up with the associates leaving and joining a practice that was bought by private equity. And they're doing well. And then, I was by myself again, and then opened a second office. Took on an associate and started to kind of regrow. And then, I mean, there was some exploration with several companies, and U.S. Foot and Ankle Specialist was started by a classmate of mine, Gene Merkin. And
Okay,
so,
yes.
yeah, so I, called Gene, and, then the rest is history. And so it was mid or early 2023 when I made that jump. And it's been a very nice transition after, it was 32 or 33 years kind of doing my own thing. And then, having just a lot of administrative help now, which is great.
Well, hold that thought, Wally. Let's talk more about that in a few minutes, because Dr. Merkin's one of the docs I want to get on the podcast. Maybe you help me introduce me to him. But I would like to talk a little bit more about that. Before we do that, let's go back to Bella. So Bella, let's talk to us about the last 4 years, right? A lot of students that are looking to go into podiatric medicine. They have 11 different colleges they can go to. Tell us about the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley.
I think it's really unique. It's in Harlingen, Texas, which I had never heard of Harlingen. I am born and raised San Antonio, and I had never been to the Rio Grande Valley ever in my life, which is only about 3.5, 4 hours away from San Antonio, which is really, really nice. I can visit my family, once a month or so. It's not too far of a drive. And the beach is right there. It's about 40 minutes away. So, in your free time, there's fun outdoor activities to enjoy. And then we just have the most wonderful faculty, people that are just really passionate about, you know, moving our profession forward and really passionate about our students and honestly a lot of Texas pride too, which is really cool. I mean, I think all of the students in my class are from Texas, except for one, and we love him. Our one student that is not a native Texan, but so I think that's really unique in that we're the only school in Texas, and we're a state school, so there's lots of pride with that. So I have no regrets in my decision.
That's great. So the first 2 years, basic sciences, take boards.
Yeah.
How'd they do the third year? What kind of rotations were you doing?
So third year, they separated our class. So half the cohort was doing medicine rotations, and the other half of the cohort was doing podiatry rotations for the fall. And then when the spring came along, we flipped it. And so whoever was doing podiatry in the fall ended up doing medicine in the spring. And that was my luck of the draw. We had 1 month rotations. For podiatry, it was mostly like private practices in the area. And then for our medicine rotations, most all of them took place out of Valley Baptist, Brownsville. And my rotations were orthopedic surgery, general surgery, interventional cardiology, hospitalist, and ICU. So
Fabulous.
it was fabulous. I got a little taste of everything. It was just really great. And all of my rotations were in Valley Baptist, Brownsville, and they were just like getting to know the staff in a hospital is also so wonderful. You kind of just feel like part of the family. So I really enjoyed third year.
That's fabulous. Could we do a couple shout outs, professor shout outs?
Oh yeah.
All right, go for it.
So as far as our third year goes, Dr. Prinz he did a lot of heavy lifting with our classroom work. Every 2 weeks, we had a grand rounds session. And in the fall semester, Dr. Prinz led the grand rounds. And those could be really like any pathology and podiatry, like, the high yield stuff for like interviews. So like we would have like, diabetic foot ulcer, ankle fracture. We even had like some like kind of crazier cases like talus fracture. So got a taste of, the bread and butter, and then also some like really cool cases as well. Dr. Prinz brought some of his own cases from whenever he was practicing in Guam, which was really cool because, different patient population and demographics makes the story a little juicier, and also helps reinforce, like social determinants of health and stuff. So that was really big. That's not really something you learn in the classroom first and second year. You're not really exposed to that. And so that was a really great, learning factor there. And then in the spring semester, the students took on grand rounds. So we were paired with one other student, and we were each assigned another kind of pathology, and we did like a whole patient case. And it's really, it's really great to hear from your peers and kind of just share the knowledge that way. So yeah, that was
great.
in rounds. So
very good.
Big fan.
So one of my students graduated, 5 years ago. Michael Hyam is now there with you.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
I love Dr. Hyam. I spent almost a whole month with Dr. Hyam. I think it was last November. Yeah, it was in my UT podiatry rotation. So
that's great.
yeah.
I'm super proud of him. So I'm glad that you got a chance to rotate with him.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
All right, we're going to come back and talk about clerkships and your running experience in a minute. But Wally, I'm going to switch back to you. So off the top of my head, can you give me a couple of the pros of going private equity, and then a couple of perhaps downsides that, I'm not asking you to bash them or anything, but what's it like? I mean, what's the difference between private practice and working with private equity?
Sure. I mean, one of the biggest differences is not having to deal with administrative duties. I mean, as a practice owner, you're writing checks for your staff, for your rent, your overhead, supplies, and that's fairly time consuming, and it takes up a fair amount of bandwidth. And so one of the things I've really enjoyed is, my schedule starts at 8:30 and it's till 5, and I can show up a few minutes ahead of time, and we've got, a great EMR system. We're using ModMed. So log in, fire up ModMed, 8:30 you're seeing patients, and 5 o'clock you're done. And I guess one of the downsides is when you're in your own practice, and you want to make a purchase for equipment, I mean, you just go ahead and make the purchase. Under this circumstance, it's a decision made by several people, a director of operations. And so it takes a little bit more time, but it's something that eventually gets done. Another great thing is the culture. We have there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of Zoom meetings, with the company. And so there's a really, great encouraging attitude, and they're very supportive of the doctors and of the staff. They're far and away more organized than I was as an individual owning a practice, and even with partners. As far as organizing, staff meetings and setting goals, and not to say we didn't do it, but they're just much better at it, much more efficient. So I really appreciate that.
A lot to be said for processes and systems in place.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's funny because I was in private practice for 17 years, and then I got into academics, and now I go through the budgeting process. I'm doing it literally like this week, right? Some of it. And for capital equipment, we're budgeting for 26, 27 year. And whereas in your private practice, it's like, yeah, let's go for it. We'll buy it next month.
Right.
It's not like, so it's different, but it's good, right?
Yeah, no, it's good. And I mean, I really enjoyed private practice. I started off with a group and worked with a group for 2 years, and then went out on my own and grew it, as I said, to a maximum of 5 docs. And when I had partners, there was some of the administrative duties we shared them. And so that was very helpful. However, after I guess it was 32 years of doing that, it was a nice way to move into having more bandwidth for other topics. One is research. I enjoy doing research, and then of course with Bella coming up, and the hope is that she'll come up alongside, and we'll work together. But it's really been I've had more time to enjoy her experience, as she's shared it with me. We had a wonderful trip to San Francisco, and she was at the Kaiser program, and my wife came along, and we all got in the car, and we drove from San Francisco back to basically San Antonio. We live out in Canyon Lake, and it was 3 days in the car, and we just had a wonderful time. And my wife and I had a bit of a vacation prior to the drive, but it's allowed me to do these sorts of things as well.
Wally, I used to think that clerks and residents kept me on my toes, but your daughter keeps you on your toes now,
100%.
academically.
Yeah, 100%, which is really, really fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she'll call me, the night before a case that's coming up and say, hey, here's what I think. What do you think? And so we have this really wonderful interchange. And the residents I teach, and, we have that interchange, but with my daughter, it's far and away, less formal. And, it's a whole lot more, relaxed. And, she's not afraid to tell me, well, no, Dad, I think this might be a better way, and I think we might be doing that. And I mean, here's what the literature says. And it's like, okay, great. And so, she's very good at quoting literature. And so that's been a lot of fun to kind of, be reacquainted with, the latest and greatest with the literature. That's really been good.
Absolutely. That's great. So Bella, let's talk about that 4th year. When do you start your 4th year? And is it mostly, are there some core rotations, or are they all clerkships? How does that work at UT?
So we get, I guess, June, July, August, September, October, November. So that's 6 clerkship externships opportunities. And mine started in June, and I started at PSL in Denver. And I know, like, I didn't have upperclassmen, so we were always told, like, 4th year is the best year. And, like, seriously, it is has been so good to me and truly has been the best experience all around, both like academically and like socially, and gaining clinical knowledge and exposure time in the OR. I just can't say enough about fourth year. It's been a great experience. So yeah, 6 total. And in December, we are supposed to go back to campus in Harlingen. I guess we have 2 weeks until Christmas break, and faculty has designed a step 2, part 2 prep course for us, along with interview prep. So very thankful for that we kind of have a little built-in study guide and built-in essentially tutoring to excel on both our boards and interviews coming in January.
Was great planning, right? To do interviews for residencies and boards at the same time, because when you're studying for one, you're studying for the other.
Yes, and also little anxiety inducing, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that our board exam starts 2 days or 3 days before interviews, something like that. I haven't looked that closely into the calendar, but something like that.
So I always tell my students, when you start clerkships, you might as well dive in head first and do a very academic one, right? So you can get some, you get a little pimping, get a little, a lot of journal club, a lot of interaction with the residents. And so you picked a great one in PSL. Where else have you gone, Bella? Where else besides PSL?
So I was in Denver for PSL, and you're right. It was definitely a great program as far as, academics and being just very involved that way. So I really geared me up, and it honestly fired me up. It made me really inspired to continue to be a great student as long as a great extern. Those go hand in hand, but then in July, I was in Kaiser Vallejo. And that externship it's called Kaiser Vallejo, but you actually spend time in Vallejo, Vacaville, and Santa Rosa. So their residents are spread out at those 3 sites. And they give you about a week to 2 weeks at each site, which was really nice. Really enjoyed that. I was really fortunate to have family in the Bay Area. So got to hang out with them a little bit, which is just a plus to be close to family. And then in August, I was in Kaiser Oakland. Yes. And so at Kaiser Oakland, they're also spread at 3 sites. You spend a little bit, as an extern, you spend a little bit of time at Kaiser Oakland, Kaiser San Francisco, and then they have what's called Diablo Service Area, which is kind of a hodgepodge of different Kaiser hospitals in one central area. So you get a little taste of those different locations and kind of how their demographics are different, and the pathology that they see is all a little bit different. And then this month I'm at JPS in Fort Worth, which
Fantastic.
It's really nice to be back in Fort Worth. I spent a year in Fort Worth when I was at TCU, so feels good to be back in Texas for a little bit. I definitely miss California weather, but hopefully it starts to cool off here soon.
Very good. Say hi to Dr. Motley when you see him.
Oh, I will. I will.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's fabulous. You're getting a phenomenal education, and it's amazing how fast the time flies. It's incredible. Next thing you know, you'll be taking boards and doing interviews and off to residency.
I was actually just discussing that with another extern. Actually, I'm externing with one of your students. At JPS, they take 6 students. So that's another really wonderful thing about externships, is that you get to meet so many fantastic people and other students that are passionate and fired up just like you are. So it's been really great to meet different people. My podiatry class is wonderful. We're a small class, 20, 23 people. So it's really nice to, meet a whole world of other students. So yeah.
Well, you'll start to appreciate how small the world is of podiatry, because you'll know these people forever. So Wally, tell us about some research. I mean, I know you've gotten very active, and I saw your CV. You've got a lot of opportunities, and what stimulated the research, and even some of the innovative things you've done?
Well, I'll start with the innovative things because that's kind of a fun story, and it relates to Bella, and our conversations. And she had I don't know if it was her second year or in the end of her first year. Yeah, her first year, she sent me a text, and it was basically, "Hey, Dad, there's this procedure that's being done, and it's been done this way forever. Do you think there's a different way or a better way to do it?" And so we started to text back and forth and email, and then on the phone talk about it. And as it turns out, that's the second implant that we have a patent on. And we ended up testing it in the lab over with Envision, and they were kind enough to let us use their lab and do some studies with it. And that's how this implant and then this invention for this second foot and ankle implant sort of came about. And it was a student who I mean, as a practitioner, I don't know if you find this, Jeff, but you kind of get caught into sort of doing the same thing every day, and it's rote, and you're just kind of doing it and seeing very similar pathology on a day to day, and not thinking kind of outside the box. And so that's the wonderful thing about residents and students. And so with this text from Bella, kind of scratched my head and said, "Wow, well, maybe there is. Let's talk about it." And then yes, so it turned into an implant that we have a patent pending on now. But that's been like, aside from Bella and she and I quizzing each other, that's been a fun pursuit, going with this implant. So it's been great.
There's a lot to be said with fresh eyes on fresh topics and looking at things a little bit differently, to your point.
Yeah. So, and then, as far as research, been involved with Endo Pharmaceuticals, and they have a really interesting, project, coming up to treat hamartos of all things. And that's really as much as I'm sort of permitted to say at this time. But they're looking at using an injectable, believe it or not, to treat hamartos. And so the research side is very similar to patent development and developing products. I mean, it's fresh, it's new, you can be creative. And those types of things, especially at this point in my practice. I mean, I've been doing it for years and years, and sort of come full circle, gone from externships and residency and being involved with research and publishing, and then getting into the business side of practice and doing that for a couple of decades, and then now being able to come back to your roots, so to speak, and back into research and now some product development. So we hear a lot about burnout with our surgeons and our physicians, and for me this has been refreshing, and it's been a spark, and so it's not permitted me to burn out. It's been rejuvenating.
That's so great. And then, so Bella, I have this kind of mantra I give to my students. I always tell them, the more research you do, you almost get put into a different pile when it comes to interviews for residency. And then they start asking you about your research. And I have this mental image of you sitting in interviews, and they're starting to ask you about your patents that are pending, and you've done literature reviews, so you know that topic as well as anybody. So kudos to you. What's that feel like, having a patent pending?
I mean, it's been a lot of work. I think, like, on paper, it looks like, oh, wow, that's really cool. But like, oh, it's been probably hundreds of email exchanges with, you have to involve a lawyer, and then you have to like get funding and this and that. So there's a whole other side of it, other than like the science and like brains. Like, there's a lot of technicalities that go with it. So that's been a whole learning process in itself. Which I am, super fortunate, and I really value. So hopefully, this is my first patent. Hopefully the ones to follow, go a little smoother, and yeah.
Well, like anything, the first time you do something, the process, you're learning. Then the second time, it's easier. And then to think that you may be able to help other people's patients down the road is really kind of gratifying, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All right, very good. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to do a little shout out to Bako Diagnostics, our sponsor. We all know that early detection is the most important determination in improving patient outcomes. Bako Diagnostics remains committed to supporting you in your role as the first line of defense in diagnosing lower extremity pathologies. Bako Diagnostics, helping podiatric physicians keep America on its feet. I love talking about Bako because they've been so good to us at the school, to residency programs, to practitioners. And Bella, you had Bako come down to the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
We did. It was back in our first year and it was in our dermatology unit. So that was great. Thinking back, I think we had some like we practiced some like punch biopsies, some shave biopsies. They gave us an awesome booklet. I think we practiced on pig's feet too. So that was like as a first year student, that was just so cool. So lot
I always give a big shout out to Dr. Shearer because he comes to Arizona in August. It's like 110 out, 10 out. He gets the pig's feet. He comes and our students just love his workshops. So kudos to Bako. They're always a supporter of everybody in our profession.
Yes.
All right. So I wanted to talk about you. You're an athlete, Bella. You've won a couple half marathons. And
Yes.
so how have you been able to balance school, working out? I imagine that's kind of the way you recharge your battery. Tell us a little bit about your running.
So I wasn't always a runner. I actually grew up a competitive swimmer and was actually initially the reason I was going to go to TCU was I had signed for their D1 swimming program. I decided to step away from swimming and just focus on academics. So just became a student. But I really, during podiatry school or before podiatry school, I found Orange Theory. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. So that was kind of my gateway into like group fitness and building community around fitness. I fell in love with the workout and then I think it was my second year of pod school or my first year. I was approached by one of the head coaches there and they were like, "Hey, you should coach." And I was like, maybe. So I actually ended up, that was just my little part-time job throughout podiatry school was coaching. But yeah, exercise has been like the rock of my routine. I grew up waking up at 5 in the morning to jump in a freezing cold pool. So nothing changed except for there was no freezing cold pool to jump in. It was just a treadmill running at 10 miles per hour at 5 in the morning. So that was my routine, 5 a.m. Orange Theory. And, I was on campus by 7:30 and sharp, super sharp and awake and ready for a day of 6 to 8 hours of lecture. So definitely kept me sane. And then on the weekends, my escape would be my long runs where I could just go and put my headphones in and run for 2 hours, run 10 miles, 13 miles, whatever it was that day. And decided to run a few races and happened to win them. So that was great.
Congratulations. And to our listeners, Bella's run a half marathon in under an hour and 25 minutes. I mean, that is fast. That's under a 3-hour marathon pace. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Wally, what do you do to recharge the battery?
Well, to recharge was an influence from Bella. And 3 years ago, she introduced me to Orange Theory.
Oh my gosh,
And
okay.
yeah, and so I will go to Orange Theory 2 to 3 times a week. And that's my outlet. And it's been really good. I'm not nearly the runner that she is. I think very few people are. But and so we would work out together when she's in town and side by side. And yes, she's a great coach. She would encourage me as I'm working out always. And so we had a lot of fun with that. So that's an outlet, and we like to boat, and we like to surf behind our boat, and that's one of the things we would do on the weekend with family. And that's always a great time to be out in the sun and encouraging someone to surf or teach them or just sort of whoop it up. So it's those are the two basics at the moment.
That's fantastic. At the end of these podcasts, you've probably seen them on some of the other ones. We do rapid fires. So I'll give you some rapid fire questions, and then we'll just go back and forth. So Bella, if you're in charge of the music in the operating room, what kind of music are you listening to?
It's probably gonna be like EDM house music.
Okay.
If it's up to me, yeah. Something like keeps the beat going, you know, upbeat. Yeah, that would be my go-to if I had the aux cord or the Bluetooth.
And when I had residence in Colorado, I just figured the faster the music, the faster they sutured. That worked out pretty good too. Walter,
That's
what kind of music are you listening to? Unless Bella's, picking the tunes.
Yeah, that'll probably happen, but at the moment, it's as a quote unquote boomer, I'm listening to music from the '80s. So '80s hair bands, Poison, things like that. Those are the type of music that I'm enjoying in the OR.
Oh, right on. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll start this time with you, Wally. You and your wife are going out for a great dinner in San Antonio. Where are you going?
Well, we go to a place called, and I'll give them a shout out, a place called Elio's. It's in Sattler. It's out here by Canyon Lake. And that's sort of our Friday night spot. It's an Italian place. They have a really wonderful bar that we can sit in. And we know one of the waiters and the bartender. And so they kind of know us now. And it's sort of our Friday night go-to spot. And of late in the last several months, Dr. Graham Hamilton and his wife have joined us because they live in the area as well. And so, many times on a Friday night, we're getting together with the Hamiltons. So it's a great way to finish the week and slide into the weekend.
Give my best to Graham. I was in San Antonio last year. We were doing podiatrist for a day with Dr. Rogers and their residency program. And Graham Hamilton gave one of the finest introduction for, these are students or undergraduate students, what podiatry is about. And it was phenomenal. So please give him my best.
No, I will. Yeah, for sure. Count on it.
All right, Bella, you're going out. You've had a big test. You're with your classmates. Where are you going out in Harlingen? Or are you staying in Harlingen?
If I had to go anywhere, it would be a little bit outside of Harlingen. I would definitely go to the island. And there's this wonderful place called Viva, and it's right on the water. Great seafood, fun cocktails, beautiful vibes. Yeah, that's where we go.
Very good. If I could ask each of you, what would you say to a student, undergraduate students majoring in science, about the podiatric profession? Wally, you go first.
Sure. I would really stress the lifestyle and the choice that you can have as a podiatrist. You can get as involved as you like and, put in long days, either at the hospital or in the office, or, you can pick and choose your hours and, choose to spend time more with your family. So, I found the profession, and what I would pass on is that it's very flexible. It's rewarding. I'm sure the other practitioners out there will, tell you the same thing. And it's so wonderful when a patient, is so happy with the care that they got. And the other thing as a podiatrist is, there are many times we'll do something in the office and we're giving our patients immediate relief. And so they're walking in pain and walking out feeling great. And I don't know how many other professions you can do that. And then, on the follow-up visit, they're like, wow, and they're so grateful. So yeah, that's really, it's heartfelt, and it makes me feel great. That's what I would pass that along.
I think it's interesting, Wally, that students, when they interview at the college, they say that when they had the opportunity to shadow podiatrists, they're the happiest docs out there. And I often say that's because they tailor their practice to what they like to do, and they can. So
yeah, right.
I'm with you. So Bella, what would you tell a prospective student? You may even be an ambassador at Rio Grande Valley. Do you interface with prospective students?
So I actually, there was a student that I went to high school with that actually just reached out to me, that's at Texas A&M, and was, balancing, like, do I go like MD-DO or should I try for podiatry? And I was just sharing my, my experience in that he really wants to be a surgeon. And I was saying that if you really just love being in the OR, podiatry actually allows you one of the quickest routes to get into the OR and become a surgeon. And again, that work-life balance is not something that you're going to be able to find with a surgical specialty. So I think that's such an advantage that podiatry has, and it's such a hidden gem that I just can't say enough great things about the career path that I chose.
Well said. Bella, what's the coolest case you've seen so far in your rotations?
Oh, I've seen so many cool cases. I've seen a total talus with total ankle. That was wild. That was actually my first day of externship
Wow.
in June. Very, very first day. Saw that. I was like, whoa, this is a lot different than the classroom. That was probably has to top it. I've seen a few TTC nails, a few total ankles, got to, put on the whole spacesuit for the total ankle, which was a really cool experience because I don't know, as a student, you like look at that and you're just like, whoa, that is when you know like you're doing the most innovative and cool things in the field. And I've actually been exposed to like all those things just in the last 3 months, which is so inspiring.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank both of you for carving out time in your busy schedules to join me on Dean's Chat. It's been truly a pleasure. And Walter, now I can say, or Wally, I say, I know you now, not just from LinkedIn.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the speed dating. That's right. It's been great.
Well, I appreciate you joining. And to all of our listeners out there, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating, or even better yet, please leave a comment or a message. And if you're watching on YouTube, by all means, become a subscriber. Wally and Bella, we're going to send you a Dean's Chat mug. So get your day started the Dean's Chat way. How's that sound?
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. And Joanna is usually with me, but we will continue to bring you leaders in the profession like Wally and future leaders in the profession like Bella. And so until next week, everybody, cheers.
Cheers.